Before you dismiss this as just another relationship video, pause for a moment. There's a quiet signal some women share only when they feel emotionally safe, and most men miss it. By the end of this conversation, you'll understand why recognizing it early can change the entire direction of a connection. If you value learning the deeper side of human behavior, consider liking and subscribing, not for algorithms, but so these conversations can keep finding the men who need them. Now let me speak to you calmly and honestly, the way I would in a private session. Many men are taught to look for attraction in obvious places: compliments, flirtation, attention, frequency of texts. But female psychology rarely reveals itself in loud gestures. It reveals itself in what she entrusts to you. When a woman shares something meaningful, not dramatic, not performative, but personally significant, she's not just talking. She's testing emotional safety without calling it a test. This is where many men misunderstand what's happening. When she shares a personal story, a belief she usually keeps private, or a moment that shaped how she sees the world, she's not trying to impress you. She's doing something far more vulnerable. She's asking silently, will you hold this with care? Not fix it, not judge it, not use it to gain advantage. Just understand it. This matters because emotional bonding doesn't begin with attraction, it begins with containment. A woman begins to feel connected to a man when she senses that her inner world can exist around him without being diminished, rushed, or analyzed away. When she shares something that carries emotional weight, especially something she doesn't share easily, it often means she has already placed you in a different psychological category. That category isn't about ownership or control, it's about trust. Men who rush past these moments often do so because they think the real signal is still coming. They believe the proof will arrive later through intensity, exclusivity, or overt commitment. But for many women, the proof already happened the moment she chose to let you see something unpolished and real. Here's the subtle truth most men were never taught. Emotional closeness forms when a woman feels seen without being exposed. If she shares something and you stay grounded, present, calm, curious, and respectful, you become associated with emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the strongest predictors of long-term attachment. This doesn't mean you perform empathy or say the perfect words. It means you don't make her vulnerability about you. You don't minimize it. You don't turn it into advice unless she asks. You allow it to exist. And when a man can do that consistently, something shifts quietly but permanently. She begins to relax into him. And once that happens, the connection deepens in ways that don't need to be announced. What makes this even more fascinating is how subtle these signals can be. Sometimes it's not a story she tells you, it's the little glimpses into her daily life she doesn't usually reveal. The way she talks about a challenge at work, a fear she keeps tucked away, or a memory she rarely revisits. All of this is quiet permission for you to enter her emotional world. Most men don't recognize these as signals because society has taught us to read only bold gestures, dates, attention, or sexual interest. But emotional connection, the kind that builds loyalty and trust, works differently. It's invisible in many ways. It's in the sharing of a thought that she otherwise wouldn't share with anyone. It's in the laughter about something private that only a select few get. It's in the way she waits to hear your response before continuing. When a woman does this, she's not necessarily declaring love or commitment. She's placing a piece of herself in your hands, and how you respond matters far more than you realize. A dismissive comment, a rushed reaction, or even overanalyzing can make her shut down instantly. But calm presence, quiet acknowledgement, and gentle curiosity invite her to open further. You're demonstrating something deeper than attraction. You're demonstrating trustworthiness. Here's the difficult truth. Many men get this far and fail to see it. They confuse comfort for certainty. They mistake her willingness to share for confirmation that she's already hers in a traditional sense. But the moment she chooses to share is not a guarantee of permanence. It's an invitation. And understanding that invitation is what separates men who build lasting bonds from men who only experience fleeting attention. So pay attention, not just to what she shares, but to how she shares it. Notice if she softens her tone, hesitates before speaking, or looks for subtle signs of acceptance. These are not tricks, they're deeply human responses, and responding to them appropriately with patience and emotional steadiness builds a foundation that no conventional advice ever teaches. This is why timing matters. Emotional closeness can accelerate, but if mishandled, it can retreat just as quickly. The key is not rushing to define the relationship or trying to win her over with actions or words. The key is holding space. Being the kind of man she instinctively knows won't break what she's chosen to share. Now, let's talk about something men almost never hear. Sharing private thoughts is a sign of subconscious selection. When a woman trusts you with something personal, it means her mind is already evaluating you differently than others. She's unconsciously asking, can he contain me without controlling me? Can he see me without needing to change me? The reason this matters is because women navigate their emotional world with caution. Every man they encounter exists on a spectrum, from completely safe to mildly risky to emotionally dangerous. A woman will rarely broadcast where she places someone on that spectrum. Instead, she tests it quietly. And that test often comes through what she shares when she thinks no one is judging. Notice what she shares about herself when the environment feels unthreatening. These moments are rarely random. If she tells you about a fear, a failure, or even a dream she hesitates to reveal elsewhere, she is scanning you for response, but more importantly, she is observing whether it's safe to be real with you. This isn't about manipulation, it's about self-preservation. She's protecting her emotional energy while unconsciously assessing yours. Men often misinterpret this, thinking that emotional sharing means she is fully committed or ready. That's rarely the case at first. It's the subtle difference between access and ownership. She's giving you access to a part of herself that most people never see. How you respond determines whether that access expands or contracts. A man who responds with calm acknowledgement, curiosity, and consistent respect doesn't just earn her trust, he becomes a psychological anchor in her life. That anchor doesn't need words like, "I love you" to exist. It doesn't need declarations. It exists quietly in the fact that she can reveal herself without fear of judgment or pressure. The truth many men miss is that women evaluate men for stability, containment, and emotional reliability before any other trait. Your reaction to what she shares tells her everything she needs to know about whether you are safe to invest in emotionally. And this is the moment most men either succeed or fail in the silent, invisible way that relationships are truly built. Something that surprises many men is that these signals often appear before any visible closeness. She may still appear distant or hesitant on the surface, yet she is quietly testing your capacity to handle depth. A man focused solely on external signals, dates, conversations, or flirtation will overlook this entirely. Emotional connection is rarely linear. It unfolds in layers, subtle and often hidden. Pay attention to the topics she brings up repeatedly. When she revisits certain stories or experiences, it's rarely idle chatter. It's a way of showing you who she is over time, letting you understand patterns, fears, and values that define her. And if you respond appropriately, with stability and calm interest, you begin to occupy a unique psychological space in her mind. Most men want to accelerate closeness through intensity, grand gestures, constant attention, or verbal affirmations. But real emotional influence comes from subtlety. It comes from showing up reliably without overwhelming. It comes from listening more than speaking. It comes from demonstrating that you can carry her trust without needing it to serve your ego. Here's an important nuance. Emotional access is not ownership. You may feel like her revealing herself is a victory, but in reality, she's observing your consistency. If you react poorly, by judgment, impatience, or overreaction, you risk losing the access she gave freely. But if you respond with grounded presence, she begins to see you as someone who enhances her sense of safety, rather than complicating it. This is why men often misread attraction. A woman may share openly, smile often, and even initiate contact, yet remain cautious. She is evaluating the long-term emotional landscape, not just the short-term experience. And understanding this distinction, the difference between access, trust, and true attachment, is what allows a man to recognize when he has moved beyond ordinary attention into something deeper. Consistency over time creates quiet authority in her mind. It's not about control, but influence. Influence grows from understanding her psychology, honoring her boundaries, and proving, without words, that she can count on you emotionally. That influence is far more powerful than any surface-level gestures could ever be. At this stage, many men ask themselves, if she shares these things, does it mean she's already mine? The answer is nuanced. Sharing signals investment in evaluation, not ownership. She is showing you that she values you enough to test you, but she is still deciding whether the space you occupy is safe, permanent, or meaningful. The crucial difference lies in how you respond. Men who overreact, become anxious, or try to force closeness ruin what could have been a deep, enduring bond. Men who remain grounded, patient, and attentive, but not controlling, become irreplaceable. Their reliability becomes woven into her emotional framework without being loud or obvious. You see, women have an unconscious radar for who can carry their emotional weight without judgment. The man who passes that test is often the one she remembers long after casual attention has faded. This isn't luck, it's psychology. It's quiet, invisible, but extraordinarily real. And it's why some men experience fleeting passion, while others experience loyalty and devotion. Understanding this also means letting go of the need for immediate confirmation. She doesn't owe you words of attachment. She doesn't owe you clarity in every interaction. What she does owe you, if she chooses to invest, is trust and openness. And your role is to honor that space without demanding more than she's ready to give. Men who understand this early see patterns invisible to others. They recognize the difference between emotional signals and explicit commitment. They don't chase, they don't perform, they show up consistently, calmly, and with integrity. And when she sees this, something extraordinary happens. She begins to align her emotions with someone who mirrors stability and emotional maturity. This alignment, subtle and slow, is far more powerful than any declaration. It's what builds relationships that last rather than moments that fade. And it's why men who understand this principle rarely feel lost, anxious, or confused when she shares deeply. They know what it truly means. By the time a woman reaches this stage of sharing with you, something important has already shifted internally. This is no longer about curiosity or surface-level interest. This is about emotional evaluation over time. What she shares now is often more layered, more reflective, and sometimes quieter than before. It may not sound dramatic, but psychologically, it carries far more weight. At this point, she may begin to talk about patterns in her life. Not just events, but meanings. She may say things like how she tends to withdraw when overwhelmed, or how certain situations make her question herself. These are not complaints. They are disclosures. She is allowing you to see how her mind works under pressure, how she protects herself, and where she feels most exposed. Many men misunderstand this phase because the sharing can feel heavier. It's less playful, less exciting on the surface. Some men instinctively pull away here, assuming the connection is becoming too serious or emotionally demanding. But in female psychology, this stage often means the opposite. It means she trusts you enough to let you see the parts of her that require patience, not performance. This is where emotional maturity becomes visible. A man who listens without trying to fix, who stays present without becoming overwhelmed, communicates something powerful. You don't have to be lighter, easier, or different to stay here. That message, even when unspoken, has a profound effect. It allows her nervous system to relax. And when a woman feels emotionally regulated around a man, attachment deepens naturally. You may also notice that she becomes more attentive to how you respond, not just immediately, but over time. She watches for consistency. Do you remember what she shared? Do you respect it later? Do you avoid using her vulnerability as leverage in moments of disagreement? These details matter more than most men realize. Trust is reinforced not by words, but by restraint. At this stage, the most damaging mistake a man can make is to assume emotional access equals entitlement. It doesn't. Emotional access is fragile. It grows when it is protected, and it collapses when it is taken for granted. If you begin to pressure her, rush outcomes, or seek reassurance, you introduce instability into what was becoming safe. Instead, grounded men do something very simple. They stay the same. They don't suddenly change their tone, expectations, or behavior. They don't become emotionally distant, nor do they become overly intense. Their consistency tells her that what she shared did not disrupt the balance, that she did not risk too much by trusting you, and this is where something subtle but powerful happens. She begins to integrate you into her emotional baseline. You become someone she associates with calm, clarity, and steadiness. Not excitement alone, not validation alone, but emotional reliability. That reliability is rare, and when a woman feels it, she doesn't announce it. She doesn't rush to label it. She simply stays. She opens a little more. She invests a little deeper. And over time, her emotional alignment with you strengthens without force. This is not about being perfect. It's about being regulated, being patient, being emotionally present without needing control. When a woman continues to share at this level, it often means you are no longer being compared. You are being considered. When a woman continues to share her inner world with you over time, what she is really doing is running a long-term emotional experiment. Not consciously, not strategically, but instinctively. She is observing whether your presence remains safe, not just in calm moments, but across emotional seasons, across misunderstandings, across silence, across change. This is the stage most men never realize they've reached, because by now, her sharing is no longer tentative. It's not framed as a confession. It's not delivered carefully to avoid judgment. It becomes woven into ordinary conversation. She speaks about her doubts, her frustrations, her hopes, her childhood memories, her fears about the future, or her uncertainty about people. And she does it naturally, without bracing herself first. Psychologically, this means something profound. It means her nervous system no longer treats you as a variable. You are no longer being constantly evaluated for emotional danger. You have become familiar territory, predictable in the right way. And in female psychology, predictability combined with emotional depth creates attachment far more reliably than charm or intensity ever could. This is also where the final and most important test appears. Not a dramatic test, not a confrontation, but a quiet one. She will eventually share something that could change how you see her, a mistake she regrets, a vulnerability she is ashamed of, a fear she believes makes her weak, or a truth she thinks might lower her value in your eyes. She is not doing this to sabotage the connection. She is doing it to find out if your respect for her is conditional, and your response to this moment will determine everything that follows. If you become distant, judgmental, dismissive, or subtly different afterward, she will register it instantly. She may not say anything, she may not confront you, but internally, something will close. The emotional door that had been opening slowly will stop opening altogether. But if you stay grounded, if your tone stays calm, if your respect stays intact, if your presence remains steady, then something irreversible happens in her psychology. She stops preparing herself for abandonment with you. That is not poetic language. That is neurological reality. When a woman realizes that she can be fully real with a man without losing his respect, without losing his emotional availability, without losing his steadiness, her attachment system relaxes into him. This is what men mistake for, "She fell for me out of nowhere." It was not out of nowhere. It was built quietly through dozens of small moments where you did not punish her emotionally for being human. This is also why men who chase, pressure, or demand clarity too early almost always destroy something that was already forming. They confuse emotional access with obligation. They confuse vulnerability with entitlement. They confuse closeness with control. And the moment a woman feels that her emotional openness is being used to trap her, define her, or rush her, her nervous system moves into self-protection. Even if she likes you deeply, even if she was already emotionally invested, safety always outranks attraction, always. So when a woman continues to share with you at this depth, the correct response is not escalation. It is stabilization. You don't push the connection forward. You allow it to deepen on its own. You don't extract reassurance. You embody reliability. You don't make her vulnerability about your worth. You make it about her trust. And when you do that long enough, something rare forms. Not infatuation, not obsession, but emotional anchoring. You become the man her mind returns to when she feels uncertain. The man her nervous system calms around. The man she measures other men against without realizing it. This is what people mean when they say, "She's already yours." Not in ownership, not in control, but in emotional alignment. By the time a woman reaches this stage of sharing with you, she has already placed you in a category few men ever reach. The category of psychological safety. And once a man occupies that space, he does not get replaced easily. Not by looks, not by money, not by charm, because what she feels with you is not excitement alone. It is peace. And peace is what the nervous system chooses when it wants to stay. So if she shares her inner world with you, and you hold it with calm strength, you are not at the beginning anymore. You are already somewhere very few men ever arrive.